Hey everyone! In early childhood education, observation is pretty much everything. We fill up notebooks with all the little details of a child's day. But what happens next? After all the notes are taken, that can be the real challenge. So today, we're going to break down a super simple method to turn all those observations into a really powerful plan for each child's growth.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? You've spent all this time carefully documenting these incredible moments of play, conversation, and discovery. You've got all this raw data, but turning it into an actual strategy can feel like the most overwhelming part of the job.
Well, that is exactly what we're going to tackle today. We're going to walk through a simple but really effective framework that helps you analyze your notes with a clear purpose and create a real path forward for every single child in your care. All right, first up, let's kind of reframe this whole task. This isn't just about taking notes, right? It's about making that leap from simply writing things down to being truly intentional with our planning.
Think of it as this continuous cycle that really should be the engine behind everything we do. You observe what a child is doing, then you use those notes to plan their next steps, you implement that plan in the classroom, and then you reflect on how it went, which, guess what? It leads you right back to making new observations. It's not just another task on the list, it's the very heart of great early education.
So to make that cycle actually work and not just feel like a bunch of paperwork, you need a simple way to guide your thinking. And you know what? It all comes down to asking just 3 key questions.
And here they are. That's it. 3 simple but powerful questions. First, what is the child doing? This is just pure observation. What skills, interests, and abilities are you seeing right now? Second, what's next? Based on what you saw, what's the logical next step for them developmentally? And finally, how are you going to plan for it? This is where you get to brainstorm the specific activities, materials, and support you can offer to help them get there.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's see how this framework actually works in the real world. We're going to start with our first case study, a 4-year-old named Claudia. So here's our first observation. Claudia made this drawing and she explained, "I'm writing the Sleeping Beauty story." So what are we seeing here? Well, right away, there's a clear interest in stories. You can see the beginnings of pre-writing and a real desire to put her ideas down on paper.
Okay, now in another observation, Claudia was building with pattern blocks. When her dad came to pick her up, she proudly called him over and then rebuilt her entire complex design for him piece by piece. Now this isn't just play. This is a full-on demonstration of problem solving, spatial reasoning, and a real sense of pride in her own work.
And this one is just so wonderful. When her friend, Amelia, was crying at drop-off, Claudia went over and comforted her with these words. That one little quote tells you so much about her growing social emotional skills. She's noticing how others feel, and she's able to express empathy. It's just amazing.
Okay, so let's pull all those moments together using our 3-question framework. The block-building observation shows us her problem-solving skills, which leads to a plan to offer more complex materials like gears. Her empathy for her friend leads to a plan to empower her as a special helper. And her storytelling leads to a plan to provide word cards. You see that? It's a clear line from observation to an identified skill to a real actionable plan.
Now let's look at another example. This framework is just as powerful with younger kids. So let's meet Corey, who's a toddler, and see how observing him over several months tells this really powerful story about his development.
Okay, so here's our starting point with Corey. This is his artwork from the fall. The marks are pretty random, right? He's just in that early stage of exploring what a marker can do. This is our baseline for his fine motor development.
Now, fast forward a few months. Corey walks up to his teacher holding a book and says, "Up, peas." For a toddler, that is a huge leap. It's the first time he's combined 2 words to make a request, showing some major growth in his language skills.
This visual just perfectly illustrates his progress. On the left is that first drawing from the fall. On the right, his drawing from the spring. You can see so much more control, more intentional marks, back and forth strokes, even some attempts at circles. The growth is just undeniable when you see it side by side like this.
So let's plug Corey's progress into the framework. We observed his language growing, so the plan is to read books with new objects for him to label. We saw his fine motor skills developing, so we'll provide a wider variety of art tools. And we noticed his emerging empathy, so the plan is to start verbally labeling feelings to help build his emotional vocabulary. See? Simple and effective.
So we've seen this framework in action with both a preschooler and a toddler. Now let's just zoom out for a second and really lock in the key takeaways from all this.
You know, Corey's case study makes this so incredibly clear. A single observation is just a snapshot. But when you start collecting observations over time, you're not just seeing what a child can do today, you're seeing the whole story of their development unfold. That right there is what makes building a case so powerful.
So why is this process so important? Well, because it moves you beyond those generic one-size-fits-all lesson plans. It allows you to truly know each child as an individual and tailor the curriculum to their needs. It gives you a concrete way to track their progress, and it provides you with these rich, specific stories to share with their families. It's a win all around.
And that brings us to the end. I just want to leave you with this question. Think about the children in your care. What's one small moment you can look for tomorrow? It could be in the block area, at the art table, anywhere. What's one observation that might just unlock the key to their very next step in learning?